You're watching the Batter Fans Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 36 of the Battered MLS Fans Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Ganata, and alongside me, I got two other battered fans. Let me start from my left to your right, Mr. Tommy Two-Time. How are you doing, sir?
I just got a good hour and a half nap in before this. I'm ready to go. We're going to 2 in the morning tonight.
Are you considered an adult if you're still taking naps?
Hell yeah.
Eric, do you take naps?
I'm at that point of adult where I'm starting to get into the old people thing, and I'll tell you, old people take naps. So,
how old are you, Eric?
I'm 47 years young.
Okay, I'm 42, so yeah, we can take naps. We're fine.
I'm close to that. I'm on the wrong side of 40 at this point, and
so is that where I'm heading? Am I heading there because I'm gonna be 40 later this year? So is that what I got to look forward to? Naps?
Yeah,
I mean, in like a decade or so, yeah, and that's the thing when you're on Twitter wars with people, and then you realize a person's like 18, and you're just like, man, like my kid's older than that.
Yeah, and Mitch, I take involuntary naps. Well, okay. Are they involuntary?
Oh, never mind. I love it.
8004.
Well, by the way, we had Mike Jones on our last episode. I don't know if you guys want to go back and watch that. Mike Jones.
Who?
All right. Match day one. It broke the record for the most goals in a opening weekend of MLS history. Obviously, it had an extra game, an extra two teams playing. So, I mean, I guess you could be, impressed by that. But it's bound to happen eventually. What did you guys think of match day one? I mean, I love the scatter schedule. I got to watch more games than usual. Tommy, what did you think of the first week of MLS action?
Well, first off, exactly what you said. Spread them around. Mm-hmm. Enjoy as much as you can. And I think they did it last year, too, where it started off early in the season. You had some early games. I mean, I remember I was at the opener last year. It was Atlanta and Columbus, and it was a 2 o'clock start time.
Okay.
And they did it for like maybe the first third of the season, or maybe it was the fourth of the season, and then they got away from it. They should be having that all the time.
Well, this year they're getting away from it also because this year they're doing that up until that break they have in June, and I guess because of the temperature, the weather, or something, they're gonna stop, and then they'll start up again in September. But at least they're adding Sunday games because those are going all the way until the end of the season. But yeah, the Saturday early games, that's only up until June.
Man, I thought I remembered last season like the games were in three time slots on Saturday, and that was it. There was like the 3:30 or 2:30 game Pacific, and then there was like the 4:30 game, and then there was like the 6:30 game, and that was pretty much it.
Well, that's right. I forget that you're talking West Coast times. You had me confused there for a second.
Or I'm just being cynical. Yeah. 5:30, 9:30. And then what? The last game is like 3 a.m. for you guys?
Yeah. It's pretty bad. It's hard to keep up with the West Coast teams.
Being on the West Coast is like an entirely different experience with sports. Like I remember being out there for like the NFL on a Sunday, and it's wrapping up early. It's weird. Real weird.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's like wake up, get coffee, and go to the bar, drink a Bloody Mary, and like eat a breakfast burrito, Like
that's wild.
Kickoff's 10:30 or 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
That is wild. I was in Vegas once, and I remember I was walking down the street. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. Just like the sun was bright, and they had like a scoreboard out on the streets for some reason, and it just said it was an NBA game. I forgot who the teams were, but it said halftime score. I'm like, what the hell? It must have been like 5:30. And I was like, halftime score, 5:30. And I realized the time difference is wild, but it's very cool to be out there. But I got to watch Vancouver, Portland, which I never watched those teams. And I was on Twitter, and everybody was watching that game because it was a standalone game. And I think this is just going to help the league grow because, I mean, being able to watch these teams that you would never get to watch otherwise, I think was awesome. Any standout teams on week one? Tommy, I know you were in Atlanta for that Atlanta game. What did you think about you guys' performance?
The offense looks great for the stars coming together and only having a short amount of time. Latte Lath, record transfer, 2 goals. Miguel Almiron, 1 assist, I think. But I mean, it looked like the old Atlanta offense that it did in 2017, 18, 19. Attack, fluid. Atlanta United has been real boring for the past few years offensively. It's just they haven't had the stars. They haven't come together. But now with Saba, Almiron, and Latte Loth as your three up there, plus you had Miranchuk, the designated player they brought in last year, it's coming together. And for them, Latte Loth had 40 minutes in the preseason with these guys.
And he should have had
2
a hat
goals.
trick.
I mean, he could have had 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it looks good. It looks really good, and that's exciting. I always say, when you can get Atlanta scoring and them showing the Bens with 60,000 fans screaming, like that's how you want to promote the league. Show that video on commercials of that many people. But unfortunately, the Bens most of the time over the past couple of years has been a lot of empty seats, people getting bored, the fans sitting down. I think we're going to be in for a change this season.
Him and Denke in Cincinnati look pretty good, and they were both the record signings. So they both look pretty good so far in the season. Eric, anybody stand out to you? I know LAFC must not have stood out.
Yeah, we got some victories, so I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it's so tough at the beginning of the season because all these teams are still kind of coming together. Our preseason isn't a very long preseason, especially for the CCL teams like we have, or CCC, I think it's called now. But having that first game before the season, it's a lot. Atlanta, man, like that was a standout for me. I watched that game. Whatever you can take away from the first game, we generally have a rule over with us at our show that you kind of got to wait to make an opinion on your team until you've played 10 games because there's so much gelling that needs to happen and a lot of things that just need to get worked out before a team really starts to get their identity together. But if we're judging it just on week 1, I mean, Portland got destroyed at home by Vancouver. Like most of what I noticed is teams other than Atlanta did really good. A lot of teams looked really bad. RSL is another one that looked pretty lifeless. Colorado for playing us. I don't know what they're going to do. They seem a lot of these teams don't look like playoff teams. RSL's another one.
Colorado looked really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I get they're going to basically be playing bunker ball this year, and I mean for what that's worth. But a lot of teams just don't really look good. The East Coast, I mean, Miami's just, man, I've been trying to like prey on their downfall for so long here, and just every time, like when we watch those freezing cold games, Miami looked more comfortable in 10 below than any of the other teams in that did. And I thought they were going to look the worst. But those guys, if there was a team that looked like the cold didn't bother them, it was them. And so, I mean, there's so many games to go through this weekend. But I ended up watching like 6 of them.
Okay, I'll ask you about 2 teams, all close by, Eric. First, San Jose. Were you impressed by San Jose with that 4-0 victory over RSL? I mean, RSL had heavy rotation because of the CCC. I think they rotated like 6 or 7 starters, but still impressive to go 4-0 and without a goal from Chicho Arango or Joseph Martinez.
I mean, I think this is a game. There's 2 directions I want to take on this. Like, number one is just the chaos of week 1, and San Jose really picked up some good pieces. And so sometimes with that, when nobody's structured, it's just kind of like the talent of your roster is what needs to win you games and just the one-on-one matchups. And on that, San Jose has them pretty well dominated. RSL, that team has just been gutted, and they haven't replaced anybody on that team. That's how it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not ready to call San Jose as like a dark horse top 5 in the West team yet, but I'm not going to say that they're not.
Okay, would
they
you say San
scored
Diego
way more
is the
though too?
Team? Oh yeah, San Jose. Chicho Arango had a goal called back.
And they could have put up 7 for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Arango, in my experience, has always been kind of a streaky goal scorer. Like he'll go 6 or 7 games and score 9 goals, and then he'll go 4 or 5 games without scoring at all. Like he can be a bit streaky for me. But then Martinez is one that like Martinez wasn't streaky at all. He was just as hot as you can get. And then a couple down years, which is like, was it the team? Was it the system? Was it him recovering from that ACL? I don't know. But if he can find half of his form that he had in Atlanta, which I think is realistic, like half of what he was in 2018, maybe. And Arango can just find like a nice cruising place, they should put some goals in. Like that should be a no-brainer.
And what about San Diego? They beat Galaxy.
They did, and the thing is you look at Galaxy, and they're just that team's been gutted too. You know, they
with injuries also.
Yeah, you have Ricky Pooch is injured. You have Pantsil is injured. He's going to be out for a bit. They lost Brugman. They lost Delgado to us. Like, I mean, that's the core of that team. They have Gabriel Peck. Oh, they lost Joveljic as well. I mean, man, five pieces like that with no real answer coming behind them. I don't know where they go. I kind of had them pegged as right around like a playoff cusp team this year, just because, I mean, missing Ricky Pooch that's almost impossible to recover from, basically. And the best they can do, because the other team was really stacked, is like marginal playoffs, you know. But now looking at what they did with San Diego, you know, they might be a 10th place or lower team. I just think they're so gutted and their cap issues are so big. I don't know how they bring reinforcements to really recover.
I think the Galaxy will be a playoff team. I don't know if they'll be top half, but I think they'll be a playoff team. I mean, like you said, they gutted. They lost a bunch of players that were on that championship team, and they also benched their championship goalkeeper McCarthy for this new guy. I forgot Nikovic.
Yeah, I don't think that can last. I mean, man, J Mac, that guy is a dog. You know, like, yeah. I mean,
that's right. You guys had him also.
No, he won us the cup. He won us the cup, man. Yeah. I mean, the greatest substitute goalkeeper incident ever, you know.
Yeah.
Crapo breaks his leg getting red carded. He comes in and then basically goes through the penalty kicks like hero, like stopped everything. Like, yeah. I mean, and then he played a really good season with us the next year as well while Crapo healed. He played so well that we're kind of like, you know, has he beaten out Crapo for the spot, you know? But Crapo missed the World Cup with that injury. I mean, when a goalie puts sacrifices like that, it's hard. And now Crapo's in Portland. So, but I think they're making a mistake by not starting J Mac 100%.
All right. So week 1 is in the books. And then we had the power rankings that came out, MLS Power Rankings. So these are the way they're looking. Now, I don't understand why LAFC's up there at 2. Yeboah should have scored a goal that should have had that in a draw, but and then what I think more than LAFC, the Columbus at 4 really surprised me, because Columbus, they don't look. I mean, I understand that they put up 4 goals. One was an own goal. The other one was basically they handed them the ball in the back. I forgot if it was a defender or a goalie. Horrible outlet pass, and they had an easy tap in. I mean, they didn't look bad, but they didn't look 4th best in the MLS. Good. What do you guys think of the top 10 in the power rankings by the MLS? Tommy?
They're stupid. I hate power rankings.
I like it. You know why I like it? Because I like to criticize it.
Oh, for sure. And like you look at MLS, and then if ESPN cared enough and did an MLS rankings, I think they do. I don't really pay attention.
They do.
Like, it's going to be completely different than this. And, you know, who puts into this? I mean, Atlanta, yeah, I think was 6. And Columbus, I'm pretty sure, was 7. Before, I'm pretty sure they were right around Atlanta, I think, when I was looking at it. I mean, having them jump up that much, like you said, I understand. But what are you just looking at? Are you just looking at the performance? Are you looking at the roster and saying, here's where the roster is and here's where the performance is, so we're jumping them up? I don't know. Especially after week 1. They're going to just overreact. But I do think Cincinnati, for sure, belongs up there.
At number 1?
I do. I think Cincinnati should be there. But we just talked about one of the most fun teams over the weekend. I don't see them on here.
Oh, San Jose?
Correct. Where are they?
And Minnesota lost to LAFC, and somehow from what it looks like with that arrow, they jumped into the top 10 possibly. They moved up. Like I said, I like it just because I like to criticize it, but you know, I get why you don't like it. It is hard to figure out why they kind of place these teams where they do. Eric, I know you're a homer at times, but do you think LAFC should be the number 2 there?
No, I don't. I agree. Power rankings is just, they're pure clickbait. You know, it's like
absolutely
the whole concept of it basically is like, rank the teams that you don't want your team to play against in order. You know, like there's supposed to be like a fear factor involved in the rankings. And so which to say, why would Minnesota go up after playing LAFC is because they already had LAFC as a high team and a lower team to only lose 1-0. And as you said, probably should have taken a 1-1 draw, decide that that's what I think the rationale goes behind it. But, for me, I'd put Miami as number one myself because, again, like that Kansas City game just really impressed me. And then they went back and, they're just, man, that team. If there's a team that I really don't want to play, it's them.
They didn't win.
What's that?
They didn't win.
Well, they played 70 minutes with 10 players.
Yeah, the New York City, they tied.
Yeah.
But I get it, but you had teams that looked amazing throughout it, right? And that's the thing is they're looking at the previous week and then adding and subtracting, and there shouldn't be a week 0 one if you really think about it. You should just start it off at week 1, say these teams look the most dangerous after watching one game. Now here's our rankings. Now prove us wrong after what we've seen. But you're stuck with some very people that are just saying, well, here's what it looks like on paper. So now let's just add and subtract here because, like we said, San Jose should be somewhere on this screen. They should be in the top 5 in the left column. They're nowhere to be found. And that's where I'm just saying this is stupid.
Well, it's probably because they think so poorly of RSL.
And San Diego, put San Diego at 7th. Like nobody really knows anything about that team.
No, what I do like is that they're very aggressive in the attack. Like they're gonna go Ronnie Dyla style Atlanta. They're gonna be pushing the tempo and they're looking to score. Now, one of those goals that they got was also a gimme. And one of my takeaways from week 1, by the way, I talked about it on Tuesday. The fact that everybody's trying to play out the back when obviously they don't all have the skills to play out of the back. Because there were so many goals that were just giveaways and easy tap-ins for the opposing teams. San Diego got one of those where the new keeper from Galaxy basically beamed the ball over to his center back that was a couple feet away from him. He couldn't handle it. Like, it happens so often. And I think out of the top 10, I'm fine with it all. The thing that really I don't get is the Columbus. I don't know why people are so impressed with Columbus yet. I really didn't think
they were good last year.
It's Wilfred Nancy. That's why.
Okay, Wilfred Nancy, that's fair, and I do think that he's a great coach. But that performance against Chicago, I didn't think was great.
They're a name. They're a consistent name over the past few years. You have to keep them in the top 10.
Yeah. No. All right. Moving on. CCC. Just real quick. I said that the top left side of the bracket is probably the easiest because there are no Mexican teams there. LAFC is there. Columbus is there. Miami moved on to play against Cavalier. And you see everywhere else, the only other MLS teams that moved on were the Galaxy, Cincinnati, Seattle, and that's it.
And Vancouver's playing right now.
And Vancouver should advance. Again, they play against Monterrey. Well, since I have you on, Eric, how are you feeling about LAFC against Columbus in the CCC next week?
Oh, so confident because every time we go into Columbus in like a knockout game, it goes so swell for us.
Yeah, I know that's not the team that you want to see in any type of tournament.
But when we saw the draw come out, we knew on the one side, I think we were pretty happy we got Colorado. It's just a team that when you have an owner that really doesn't spend any money, and they're like, hey, our record transfer is, 3.4 million. And it's like, we buy U22s for double that, And when you have that team, it's like, it shouldn't be a big thing. Anything can happen with any game, but we kind of saw that Colorado game is like, all right, this is a warm up because you worry about a tough team in the first game and your first round is before you've even played a regular season game. And basically it's like 3 preseason games. And now you're playing Club America, and it's just like, it's such a rough one. So seeing Colorado is cool. And, it should be interesting with Columbus. The places I get hope out of this game is that Columbus hasn't had a previous round. They've only played 1 regular season game. So a lot of the tuning up they have isn't there. We've now have 3 and it'll be 4 games under our belt by then. So a little more time to gel. Early season, the fatigue shouldn't be as big of a problem. So far, we've escaped pretty well. So that's that. I also think that Columbus on paper, despite the power rankings, aren't quite what they were last season.
I agree 100%.
So, and I think that LAFC, as I told you before, I think that we've actually improved since the end of last season, especially with the midfield, and we have multiple upgrades on the field. And our weak points are still our weak points, but we have upgraded some spots. So I think we're a stronger team than we were. They're a weaker team than we were. Lack of experience. They have all this. I feel better about coming out of this matchup going through than I necessarily have in the past.
You were nervous about it, though, right? You were nervous about Colorado. I saw those tweets. You didn't seem confident, right?
No, we didn't play very good games. But on the other side, we also the Rapids. I don't think they didn't get a single shot on goal that second leg, and the first leg they didn't get a shot on goal till like the 90th minute. But as I said, like, we're built to be a defensive team to grind it out. So these like 1-0s, I think, are going to be common for us. But it's a tough thing, man. Going in with a 2-1 loss aggregate for a home leg and knowing, okay, 1-0 wins, a 1-1 draw, we lose. It's you're hanging on a razor's edge, so it's hard to be confident in those situations.
Do you like that it's away goal still?
No.
Yes.
I hate that.
I didn't want to go to penalties on Tuesday. Screw that, man.
I think that's the worst. I'm so glad that Europe got rid of it, that I would hope that we would follow suit soon, because it's such a dumb – I hate it. I really do.
I forgot they didn't. I was telling my friends, turn the game on. We're about to go to penalties. I didn't have the volume on, so I wasn't hearing the announcer explain it. And then I see them celebrating. I go, oh, they didn't change it.
Yeah, no, they changed it in Europe, but not over here. I absolutely hate that.
I like the away goals. I like them. So I like them better than – it's that between that and shootouts. If it's like a shootout or away goal, I'll take away goal.
Give me a good shootout. Actually, I wish that they would just do away with draws, period. Just give me a shootout whenever. Give me the hockey, the way the hockey goes. Give me a
96 shootout. MLS shootout from
Nah, I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. Even those are cool. Those were fun to watch. Yeah, but no, you don't got to break that far. But I wouldn't mind seeing PK.
Sorry, Dan.
Eric,
one more thing.
Drew.
I know you want to move.
No, go ahead.
You want to move forward real quick.
No, I want to ask him about.
You're trying to expand the game. Yeah. You want more people to watch it, and you end the rule like trying to explain to just a casual at the bar, like showing the number, right? The aggregate's 2-2. Cool. That means we're going to a shootout. Oh
Absolutely.
no, we're done. We scored an away goal a week ago. We're moving on.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you why that bothers me, because, and maybe you guys will disagree. Home field advantage is cute and all, but I don't think that there's no home field advantage like there's like in the NFL, for example, where the crowd could really like mess up your communication, like at the line and stuff like that. In soccer, I don't think it's the same. If you were able to score twice in the pitch, whether it be home or away, that's just 2 goals to me. I don't think that an away goal should be that much more, because I don't think that the crowd affects it as much as it does, let's say, like in the NFL or even in MLB when you get to bat at the bottom of the 9th, for example. So that's why I dislike the rule so much.
Yeah,
Giroud. Yeah. Any hope for Giroud, or is it just an automatic bust? Let's just get rid of him already.
Bust. He's pretty much. I mean, if somebody says, "Hey, Giroud's a bust," like how do you argue the counterpoint? The guy's got like 1 goal since he's been here, and we're on like 8 or 9 months at this point. Luckily, I mean, for me, I've said before, what matters is that you win games, and our goal scoring is going to come from our wings. It's going to come from Bouanga and David Martinez, and then it's going to come from Under once he shows up as our 6-month super DP loan, and this dude looks like a savage.
David Martinez look really good.
Oh man, he constantly dribbled past 3 guys and put a shot, and those shots were so close. And he's.
But I do think that. I do think that he was shooting a little too much. I felt like he was trying to get in the back of the net instead of delivering the ball to his teammates. But he looked saucy.
So the thing is the way we were played. Colorado, they were putting their midfield line like 10 to 15 yards from their back line, and they were just compressing that and wouldn't let us do anything in the middle. All we could do is move it down the sidelines, and they had 2 guys on the sidelines to 2-on-1, and that's. David had to find him and Denis both. That's what they had to get through, and that's the only option available. So more long shots happen than usual because, Colorado is good and Minnesota plays very similar to Colorado as well, where they kind of just bunker. And so when that happens, you kind of have to rely on those moments. Like you need a hero to come through and then it breaks it open. But, he's going to get there.
So would you rather have a Bobase start or Giroud right now?
Ebobisse is a better option, honestly, because Ebobisse gives us better press. How they've been kind of doing it is Giroud for 60, 65 minutes, Ebobisse coming to cleaned up, which is good as well. The thing that Giroud gives us is Giroud is a really, really good passer. He is also an option to bypass the midfield for our back line and defense so that we don't have to play it out the back like so many teams do, which coaches get away with because nobody ever gets fired for losing in this team, but that's another issue.
In this league.
Yeah. Oh, you want to talk about RSL, that coach would be gone. Violette with Austin, that coach would be gone before that plane even landed. Gone. Wolf coached another 19 months after that, but away from that's totally digressing. Giroud is going to play it to our wings. Our wings are going to need to score. He is a target for Lloris. He wins those aerial balls like 75% of the time. And so this is a tool. This is how he needs to get utilized. He's not going to score goals. If he changes it, great, I will happily be wrong. But his FB ref stats are atrocious, absolutely atrocious. The guy makes no impact. He had 7 touches or something like that.
Is his only goal from Leagues Cup?
Yeah.
The Leagues Cup final?
He's had 5 called offsides last season because he couldn't keep up with our wings. So he would try to have to put himself in positions to cheat on it. And between Oliver and Bouanga, it's those guys run twice as fast as Giroud.
Shout out to Yada Kun from Taiwan. Glad that you were able. I'm sure that it's got to be it's got to be 10 in the morning over there or 8 in the morning. So shout out to you. And somebody asked real quick before we get off the LAFC, are they still interested in Griezmann? Is that still something that you guys are expecting?
Yeah, we're expecting it. I don't know if we should be expecting it because at this point it's feels like it's a 2-year-old rumor. This rumor just keeps going.
That's how Miami feels about Neymar. Everybody's still expecting Neymar this summer, but
no, he was always going to Santos. He was always going there.
But it's a 6-month loan, so they're still expecting him this summer. So I don't know. I know people there. That's all I can say. He's Santos is where his heart is. That's. You think he'll stay there past the 6 months?
He's the boy returning home, man. He's going to stay there. I think he's going to have more to do with the club than just be a player after he stops being a player. He's the prince. Pele is the king, but Neymar is the prince. That's how they say it. Biggest team in a small town.
I still think that he comes to Miami this summer.
Well, then you can have me on the show when he does, and you can tell me to my face how wrong I am.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving on to match day 2. And let me say, I don't want to cover Tommy's face. So let me put it on my face right there. All right. Match day 2. These are the games that are upcoming. Any game that stands out to you that maybe you guys are looking forward to coming up. I know Atlanta has.
That's not right.
We play NYCFC.
This is last season's.
We play Charlotte.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to go off the dome then.
Portland.
So Charlotte. Yeah, no.
2 o'clock game.
I just noticed 2 o'clock game. So that's gonna be a standalone game. That's Saturday
on Fox.
How are you feeling
watch
about
games
going
on
up
Fox?
against? Yeah. Do you care if they're on national TV?
I still use Apple. I mean, Fox wasn't even sending their, and I've heard some of Apple is doing this as well this season, is that they're not even sending their announcers to the stadium, which I think is ridiculous. I understand you did that during COVID and it worked, but I still find that just cheap, silly.
I am 100% with you.
It's terrible.
Especially with all the money they spent on it.
Exactly. I mean,
all right.
I understand it's a crazy economy right now, but you should still be sending these guys there to interact and understand what's going on in the stadium. This is a understand what's going on in the stadium type of game. It's not baseball. You could do that with baseball, but with soccer, no way.
Do you know tell me about Charlotte. I honestly don't know much at all about them. They're, a lot of East teams we don't play in the West so much, so a lot of these East teams.
They have the best defense in the league, I think, even though the Seattle statistically had the best. I think they have the best because they have the best keeper in the league also. So they have that. Now they have Saha, which didn't play last week because he had a kid. So he flew back to England for the birth of his child. So he missed last week. He's supposed to
very
help
likely to miss this week.
Yeah, well, I was talking to Danny Brams from Charlie's Soccer Show, and he told me that he doesn't know that there's a chance that he comes back in time. But if they haven't announced it yet, maybe not. But
he traveled today.
He did? Okay. Well, he's supposed to be that guy that unlocks that offense with Ajimon.
Okay. There's a lot of buzz, man. A lot of people have really
they should have lost last week, though.
Oh, for
they
sure.
Should have lost because they were losing. They scored off of a corner kick, and then in the I don't know if it was the 90th minute or it was late in the game. They were coming down the right side. They had a low cross, and it wasn't going to get to Vargas down the left side. He had a defender that was marking him, but his last name starts with the Y. I forgot his last name. But he stretched out and it ended up being an own goal, and that's how they escaped with the draw. But I mean, leaving with the draw in Seattle opening week, you got to feel good, but it was because of the own goal.
That's
but Seattle. But to me, I think Seattle is probably going to be in the best team in the West. I have them finishing as number 1 in the West.
Same.
All right.
So,
Tommy, how you feel about Lake? So you have them going to Salt Lake and taking care of business?
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, Salt Lake is not looking very solid right now. But I do like that at 2:30 we got Atlanta Charlotte, which I love because I'm going to be able to watch that game.
Rivalry game as well, like putting a rivalry in a separate time slot there. That's great early on.
Absolutely. And then I think Seattle will absolutely dominate Salt Lake.
Columbus at New England. So, for us, they come west to the West Coast on Tuesday. So that's a little travel right there.
Well, and if they're coming to the West Coast on Tuesday, I would assume that's going to be a heavy rotation game for them. So New England might have a chance here, even though New England looked lifeless against Nashville last week.
Here's the thing. Columbus has only played one competitive game this year. They've only had their week 1 game. So if they rotate, that's a game that those guys aren't figuring each other out. Although a lot, there's some turnover over there, but
that's right, because they get the bye, right? Because they were league champs.
They have the bye. So this is their first game in the tournament. Right. So that's an interesting dynamic anyways.
And they got Nashville and the Red Bulls. Nashville, to me, just seems like it might just be such a bad team this year. I don't even know what to say about them. But I do think even though the Red Bulls lost last week, Choupo-Moting. I keep forgetting the guy's name. But him with Lewis Morgan and Forsberg, I think they're going to be really dynamic. I think that they'll beat up on Nashville this week. I'll tell you what game I'm excited for. Philadelphia, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think Philadelphia's attack is going to be better than people realize, and I think that might end up being a high-scoring game. And Denke's look good. So I'm excited to see Philadelphia Cincy, especially since Cincy's in the Champions Cup. They might even rotate some players. So I think Philadelphia has a good chance to come out with a draw or even win in this game since they're playing at home.
If they start 2-0, that'd be wild for them. Yeah, I don't know what to think about Philadelphia this season. It's weird. It's weird with no curtain there.
I do think that I have Philadelphia as a playoff team and ending in the top 5 in the East. I know people thought that I was a little crazy saying that, but I think their attack is going to be that good.
Okay.
And then Greg Berhalter and against DC. DC should have won last week. They lost to Toronto because they had a soft penalty. And was it an own goal? I think about it. No, it wasn't an own goal. Was it an own goal? But I do remember that if I was DC, I would have been upset when I was watching that Toronto game. They should have came out with the victory. Benteke obviously scoring goals off of headers. That's what he does. So I think DC should go there. And now San Jose look like they have another game where they can show off again because they played against KC.
Hey, before we jump to Chicago, Berhalter, like are either of you guys kind of Do you think he's going to succeed, or do you think he's going to totally bust again in Chicago?
They didn't look horrible against
Columbus?
was it Columbia? Yeah, Columbus. They scored.
They scored 2, I believe.
Yeah, they scored first. Bamba looked good down the left side. I don't know what to think about Columbus. Rick Berhalter, everybody says he's a great club coach. And honestly, in the U.S. men's national team, I understand where the hate was coming from, but at the same time,
the guy as a club coach never won the cup. He never won the cup with Columbus. He lost to Portland in 2014, and that's he only has sniffed the cup. He's never actually touched it. So
I don't know what to think. I know in Chicago they're optimistic. I talked to Nick from Glasshouse Soccer. He thought they're optimistic.
Yeah, but they haven't had much to be optimistic about for a long time in that city.
Exactly.
They made the playoffs once in the last 15 years.
They're like the Detroit Lions of MLS.
Yeah, it's really crazy, especially since they had so much success when they first got to the league.
It's true.
And then
anyway, Kansas City, San Jose.
And San Jose is probably going to kick Kansas City's ass. We jumped over Orlando, Toronto, but Orlando is a weird team. I don't know what to think about Orlando. Because last year, everybody had them as the sleeper team to win the Supporter Shield. They ended up having a horrible start to the season, and they picked it up. And they ended strong. Toronto is really bad. The Insigne refuses to accept any offer that teams have for him. I don't know I don't know what the hell's going to go on over there. I'm assuming Orlando could. It's a home game. They should be able to pull out a victory here, but I don't know.
Did they eventually just buy him out?
I don't know why they haven't already. His contract is $15 million a year though. He's one of the highest paid players in the league.
Oh yeah, no, that dude's like pina coladas right now. He don't give a fuck. He's like, pay me because it says on paper you have to, and I ain't doing dick.
If you buy me out, cool. But there's just some owners that the buyout rule, the 2 buyouts, I think are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because if it's not working, you're forcing. The front office is getting the owner to buy that out, but there's just some teams that just aren't going to do it. They just don't want to spend, and they especially just don't want to rip up a contract and say, okay, just go wherever. But there's teams like the teams the 3 of us root for that throw money at everything. That's going to say 2. If I make a really bad mistake or there's a really bad, injury here, I'll move on.
Yeah,
buy it out.
Orlando, I think, I agree. They're interesting, and so they're kind of still a dark horse for me. Even though Wilder Cartagena had that Achilles tear, but then they brought in Edward Atuesta, who I freaking love that guy.
That's right, that's your boy.
And they could still put it together. What is this? I think the fourth year the Wilfs have owned that team, and they own my favorite NFL team as well. And I know that they're really supportive of front offices trying to reach their goal, what it is. If their front offices want a player, they usually will try to make it happen. So, that is one thing with them. I feel like, their owners are super engaged and positive about it. And even that Cartagena pivot to Atuesta real quick, that shows that they're still trying to make something happen. And that could be a good move for them.
Yes. Orlando, I don't know. And real quick, I looked up last year's salaries. Messi was the highest paid player at $20 million a year. Insigne was second with $15 million a year. And third was Busquets at $8 million a year. So Insigne gets paid a ridiculous amount of money to not play. He was literally not available last game. Coach's decision, not on the bench or anything. He's just cashing in those checks. So I'm not sure why they can't buy him out. I don't know what the issue is there, but I figured that they would have done that already.
It's probably in the contract he signed to go there in the first place. There's probably a guaranteed or some sort of clause in there that he has leverage. There has to be.
Montreal, Minnesota. You watched Montreal closely last week, Tommy. What do you think of Montreal? Because I thought they looked pretty decent against Atlanta.
They did, but you also have to think about Atlanta. 3 out of their 4 starting defenders were out for that game. They were silly mistakes by Atlanta's defense. Both goals were preventable. I don't know how to feel about them. To be honest with you, I just think that they're okay. Remember, Joseph Martinez was that team. He was the
Yeah,
reason why
especially towards the
they
end
got
of the
in the
season.
playoffs. Oh,
Mhm.
the last third of the season, it was Atlanta Joseph Martinez
Yeah.
for Montreal. And even when they got into that playing game, they scored 2 goals, and 2 of those goals were Joseph Martinez.
Well, I think if he doesn't end the season that way, he's not in the MLS anymore. I think he would have ended up having to go somewhere else. I think the end of that season saved him, and that's why he ended up staying in the MLS and ended up in San Jose.
At first, I was going to say, "Are you crazy?" But that you might be right there. But there's some guys that just have that name, and someone's going to throw some money at it and
You
say
think so?
he could be our backup. I
Maybe.
think he preferred to stay in MLS. He loves MLS. He's got a family. I don't think he wants to move that. But
Well, I'm sure he's gonna be nice over there.
I'm happy
and,
for him though, because obviously, played with Atlanta, won a championship, but that injury that he had in Nashville, like that was just terrible for him, terrible for the league.
That changed his career.
It did, and it changed the league, I think, too,
Yeah.
because Atlanta at that time was still the hottest team.
And he
in
was
the
one of
league.
the faces, if not the face.
Oh, that
Right.
2018 Atlanta team has to be probably top 5 best MLS teams ever. I mean, they got to be in the conversation at least.
And you can't sleep on the 2019 team with him either. He went on the goal scoring streak that was a record that season. I mean, he was the reason. I mean,
that
team
was 2018, wasn't it?
Well, in the 2019, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he was hurt in that game as well. 2018, yes, they did win MLS Cup, but 2019
Carlos
was when he
Vela
went
set
on the streak.
Vela set the goal record in 19, didn't he?
I believe
36
so.
goal, single season goal record. I believe Vela set that in 2019.
Yeah, Joseph set the record for most
18,
games.
35 and 18, and then Vela did 36 and 19, if I'm remembering correctly on my head.
Right. Yeah, and the record I'm talking about is just like games in a row of scoring a goal. That was the record that he set that. But he was the only reason why Atlanta was good that year early on. He saved Frank DeBoer's job that season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you never like to see a face of the league get hurt and be change because of an injury, and that was just one. Obviously, I've got a huge stake in it there, but anyone that you see, like if Mahomes gets hurt, like everyone hates Mahomes, but he's the face of the league, and you don't want to just see a guy just completely disappear and go bad because of a terrible injury.
Oh yeah, cheering for injuries is always classless. Like,
right. Absolutely.
But Minnesota. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was talking to something from Round Ball Soccer from Montreal, and they said that the biggest loss for them was Joseph Martinez. They loved Joseph Martinez in Montreal, and I was surprised because outside of the end of the season, I didn't think he had that much of an impact. But they are really down that they lost him. So yeah, I was surprised about that. But yes, Eric, you watched Minnesota closely last year. Both of your teams played against these two teams coincidentally last week.
Yeah. No, I mean, Minnesota's an interesting team. Of course, it's my family's all back there, and they're all Minnesota fans. I took them to an LAFC game, and now they watch games in Minnesota. So it's fun things. But yeah, Minnesota. They have it in them to be a really good team this year as well. I mean, they're basically going to play a counterattack, but Oluwaisi up front and Kelvin Yeboah, like those guys are big, strong, fast guys. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to bunker and play a counterattack with two guys like that up front, it's going to be hard to deal with. Longwayne and Rosales as playing as wing backs. They tend to play 3 center backs. Very good speedy options as well. So I think they're going to be a team they're going to grind out a lot of games. I think they're going to be very low scoring. Also, Dane St. Clair is one of the best goalies in the league. I think probably the most underrated goalie in the league.
Absolutely. He's the one that got them all to the League's Cup last year, beating all the Mexican teams.
That guy can go into game. Yeah, he can go into games and make 10 saves in a game, and just that dude is a freak. And so all of these things together, like they have the DNA in them to really be a team that nobody really ever wants to play. Especially, I think they're going to be a really good road team this year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. In that game, it's interesting because I don't know what to think of. Minnesota's supposed to be a really well-rounded team. So I guess if I had to pick, I'd say Minnesota probably take that game, but I don't know what to think of Montreal. Dallas, Colorado. Colorado and the attack looked horrible last week. And Zach Steffen's the only reason they didn't get their ass kicked by St. Louis. And Dallas looked okay. They scored twice. Again, Houston trying to play out of the back, gave the ball away to Peter Musa. He had an easy tap-in goal. And then Dallas stopped playing because they thought that they got fouled. They stopped playing. Houston, thought they got fouled. They stopped playing. Dallas took advantage, had a quick counterattack goal. So, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the most beautiful of games by Dallas, but they won. And I think Lucho Acosta and Peter Musa is going to be a deadly duo. I would assume that this game Dallas should be able to take. And I'm expecting Dallas to do pretty well this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Dallas is, I think, had one of the better off seasons of any team. So, and yeah, Musa, that guy's been great. He was great last week. Colorado, they play that bunker ball too. They have a lot of potential, and they did grind it out against us. But Jordy Mihailovic, I think, is the best. He's the best spot kick taker in the league, not named Lionel Messi. If Messi wasn't here, he would be, in my mind, the number one spot kick taker you want. Like, that guy can put the ball in anywhere from 30 yards. You saw him do it to us in the CCC. And so there's that. They also, Rafael Navajo, man, he's a great 9. And he's almost like Giroud. Like, he's just not really getting utilized right in that system. He tends to be doing a lot more like pressing work, but he's a pretty physical guy, good with the ball. And I think they just haven't figured out how to utilize him yet. He's a good player, but he just doesn't seem to be producing in their system. So, we'll see what happens with that. If they can get that guy going and figure that out, that's going to add another level of dangerous to their game.
Tommy, I have a question for you. Just random, what you think? Dallas has Lucho Acosta right now.
Yeah.
Just going back to Cincy for a second. Would you take Lucho Acosta or Evander?
Evander.
You could pick one of the two. Evander? Really? What about you, Eric?
Evander.
Okay. All right. I like Lucho, but Evander's looked really good in Cincy so far.
Evander is he's a fantastic player, like very good.
Yeah. And I think that is, again, the downside to playing in the West Coast in Portland, for example, because you don't get as much exposure as Lucho did in Cincy on the East Coast. So it's going to be nice seeing these staggered games so you can get more attention to these players. LAFC, NYCFC.
Hey, real quick, the 10:30 spot is stacked.
Yeah.
3 good games.
I've talked so much about LAFC. I'll try not to so much on this one. I think it should be an interesting game because NYCFC plays a little more of a dynamic, progressive style. They'll play more possession. We've just played teams that basically play bunker ball. So going up against a team that plays a more dynamic style, I think, is going to make for an interesting game, and we'll start to learn more about both of these teams, I think, from this. We could be rotated also for this game. We probably will be rotated a bit.
Alonso Martinez is the best name, the best player that nobody talks about, I think, in this league. That kid's going to be special.
Yeah, he was like 17 goals last season.
Yeah. He was up there with as far as goals per minute. He was up there. Tommy, out of the last 3 games that you just mentioned, Portland, Austin, San Diego, St. Louis, LAFC, NYCFC, which one are you looking forward to?
San Diego.
Yeah,
I want to see what that crowd's like.
Me too. I'm really excited.
I'm really excited for it.
That.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see them. That whole. And it's always nice to see that very first game. I think it's going to be really cool. I wish they would have given them. I understand why they don't, but I think it would have been cool if it would have been on opening week. But I get it. That way they give them 2. But they give them 2 special games, right? The first ever game, and then the first home game, and that's why they do it.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun game. I think Portland, Austin, which we kind of went over, probably for good reason. I think both of those teams are going to struggle to make the playoffs this year.
I agree, and Phil Neville has to be on the hot seat if they start to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of again like with a little snarky Violette and Josh Wolf. It's just like our league just doesn't fire coaches, And
then we move over to Sunday, 2 games, 5 o'clock, Vancouver and Galaxy. Vancouver gets the Sunday 5 o'clock slot 2 weeks in a row. Very cool for them, because that's
Is it
probably a
cool
team
for the
that just,
fans though? Like the league in
you mean
general?
their fans? Well, I think that it's cool because last week, for example, a lot of people probably weren't familiar with Vancouver, and now they're going to see them 2 times in a week. Now some of these names are going to be household names. I think that's pretty cool. So Galaxy and Vancouver. Any thoughts on those two?
Oh yeah, I got thoughts.
There we go.
Vancouver, the team I think we played 7 times 2 years ago. But no, Vancouver was a pretty good team last season, and I think they've improved this season as well. I think Vancouver is they have a good shot of being a top 5 in the West team. I think they're kind of a little bit of a dark horse as well. And as I said before with our friends down the road in Carson, I think that their team is, when you win the cup, you get smashed with the salary cap hammer. And I think the way they structured all of their contracts, they're getting hit really brutally this year on it. So I think they're struggling to even make the playoffs. So, and it's in Vancouver. I think it's going to be a win for Vancouver, a pretty solid one. And Carson licks their wound and wonders what happened.
The alarms will be ringing.
Where did it all go wrong?
When you've got our friend Edgar on next week,
I like
he's gonna look real stressed out.
Yeah, or they're gonna pull an upset and he's gonna come here nice and confident. It was a fluke, and we're back.
Well, and like I was saying, Jaden Nelson should have been Player of the Week this week. I understand they gave it to Dreyer. I'm assuming because they wanted to give San Diego some play, because Jaden Nelson had 3 assists, 1 goal. I understand those against 10 men in Portland, but I think if he has a big game again, all of a sudden, since when does Vancouver have a household name? And all of a sudden, first 2 weeks, you might have a household name because people are watching these games. So I think it's really cool that they're doing this Sunday, staggering the times. And if Galaxy lose, it's going to be – I'm sure it's going to be panic time just because of the fact that Pooch and Pencil aren't going to be back anytime soon. And then they end Sunday Night Football – or Sunday Night Soccer, I'm sorry. Houston, Miami.
Daniel, this one's all you.
No, Miami, I don't think is going to rotate their schedule, their roster much, because Mascherano hasn't showed that he rests his big names and the older players for whatever reason. If I was him, I would, just because of the fact that since Valentine's Day, they've been playing every 3 to 4 days, and at some point you got to rest these guys. So I do think that they should, but I don't think they will. And Houston, I mean, defensively, they were good last year. They didn't look bad this year, the first game against Dallas, but Dallas had a couple errors, which we were talking to somebody from Bayou. I'm sorry, Bayou. I forgot what the Bayou City. I want to say Bayou City. They said that usually building out the back is their strength, so that's a one-time mistake not to expect that. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be cool that it's a standalone game, because I'm sure they're going to get really good ratings. But I'm expecting something like a draw maybe, just because I don't know if Messi's going to play. I wouldn't play him, because I think that we got to start. He's on the older side. I think that they should rest him, but we'll see.
It's only February.
It sounds like Mascherano might be underestimating the travel grind of MLS soccer.
Well, I've always heard that's the hardest adjustment for new managers to this league is the travel.
Yeah, so I remember 2023. Giorgio Chiellini, when he played for us, I think it was by June, he had passed all of his entire career of travel miles in Italy were passed in just started the season to June in MLS. He traveled more than he traveled the entire rest of his career at Juventus.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that happens all too often here. So Mascherano, I think, it still might be adjusting to that. And like I said, they're playing every 3 to 4 days. This is the longest break they've had since Valentine's Day, which is going to be 5 days before they play that Houston game. and then they have 4 days before they play that CCC game against Cavalier, the Jamaican champs. So, like I said, I think that they should rest him. I don't know if they will, but if they do rest him specifically, because he left early last game, he was massaging his leg, so everybody was a little worried. Mascherano said it's not a big deal, he's fine. So I would rest him, but we just gotta wait and see.
It's a long season.
Hey,
I mean,
Daniel,
absolutely.
It's too long.
Should Miami be number 1 in the power rankings?
No.
No? Who would you put number 1?
I'm okay with Cincinnati there.
Okay.
I think that they've looked good with Evander and Denke. I think they've looked good. I would keep Seattle up there. I think they were at 5th in those power rankings. I would keep them up there. I'd probably put them at 2 or 3. I thought Jordan Morris playing the 9 looked pretty good. When they played in the CCC game, they had Jesus Ferreira playing behind him. I think Jordan Morris looks good as a 9, and I wouldn't put him out wide. So, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm really high on Seattle this year. I'd keep Miami at 3rd, which is I think that's where they have them. I'd keep Miami at 3rd.
Yeah, they did.
So, yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap this one up? Eric.
Man, I mean, we're going to be treated to some nice a lot of games, especially as the CCC tournament goes. I mean, I'm pretty excited about that this year is going, and I'm excited we have plenty of games to watch as opposed to like 3 windows last season to watch things, and then the results where you watch the games, and that sucks.
Can I ask
enjoy it while you can?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you guys one quick question, and hopefully it's quick. The USL, Paul McDonald's, I think the president of the USL, is going to start this new Division 1 USL league with Pro Rel. Now, there's a couple. The reason that it's considered Division 1 is because they have to have a few. I'm blanking here on the word. There's a couple things that they need to do in order to be classified as criteria. Thank you. A few criteria that they have to meet. One, all the stadiums need to be at least 15,000 capacity, which I think only 2 of them at the moment are.
Which two?
Miami FC. Miami
okay.
FC and who else was it?
And somebody else that plays in somebody else's stadium?
Yeah, because Miami FC plays at FIU Stadium, and then
I think like Sacramento's the biggest like natural standalone, and that's like 10,000.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out who the other one was.
Monterey Bay FC, that's like 4,500. A lot
of Birmingham Legion is the other one.
Okay,
so those are the only 2. But supposedly they're having issues trying to get the teams to buy in. They all say they want to buy in, but then they have to invest a lot of money into making the bigger stadiums and all that other stuff. If they were to somehow pull this off, and Paul McDonough said that it will start by 2028, do you really believe that this could compete? And some people are saying, take out the MLS. I'm having a hard time believing. Yeah, well, that's what people are saying. I have a hard time believing that this could compete with the MLS. And I also think that Pro Rel doesn't work in this country just because soccer isn't as popular of a sport as it is overseas. What do you guys think about the whole USL D1 league, Tommy?
If you could get the Pro Rel people off MLS Twitter, this is how you do it, then the league is perfect. It's perfect. Put them in their own bubble. Let them enjoy Pro Rel. It's their thing. Keep MLS separate. Perfect. Everybody's happy. They'll still talk trash about MLS, but just move on with it, because I discovered this offseason getting in a fight with a Pro Rel Twitter account. I went to bed and I woke up and there was like 80 responses back from 2 dudes. The same 2 dudes just going back and forth. And I'm like, I'm sleeping, guys. I can't even respond back to you. Mm-hmm. Look, they're not going to have the money to be able to invest in the players that are going to really interest people to continue to come back and watch it. I mean, I think they're on ESPN, right? Isn't USL on ESPN?
No idea.
I think they have some matches on ESPN.
Yeah, I think they're on the ESPN Plus.
The Plus, right? It's the Plus, and that's fine. Like
it's on the Ocho.
I mean, being on a channel where I mean, a lot more people have ESPN Plus than than Apple TV and paying for the Apple subscription is cool, but it's never ever going to compete with MLS, and they're never going to merge. It's just not going to. There's been too much money by all these owners that have come into MLS to all of a sudden say, yeah, let's let all these teams in, because they're going to all have to shell out insane amount of money to get a piece into the MLS world, because it's MLS's world. USL just wants into it.
Well, they have no salary cap. I mean, they don't have a lot of money to spend, but they have no salary cap.
Right. But if you have no money, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Eric, what do you think? Do you think any chance that, one, that this happens, and two, that they take down the MLS?
First, Pro Rel for USA Twitter will never be happy with anything. Like, they could get Pro Rel, they will find something else to be upset about. Like, number one, like, don't dream this dream, Tommy.
Yeah.
But essentially, I think, there's something I really studied pretty hard like 3 years ago. And you got to remember that MLS is very closely tied to NFL. And so they understand the pathway to build a big juggernaut of a league. Whether they can pull it off or not, at what level, remains to be seen. But they understand the business model and how to do it. With USL, to me, this really feels more like a desperation move, because, if you look, MLS has taken over the major markets. Mm-hmm. The remaining markets that MLS is not in, that USL is in, are the ones MLS is going after. They almost took Sacramento Republic back in 2019 until the pandemic hit, and that otherwise Sacramento would already be in MLS. And that was the most well-attended team in USL. So I think they were looking to pick off the most financially viable USL team. That's why I think Phoenix is going to have a shot at some point. They might pick them off. Look at San Diego. USL puts San Diego Loyal in there, and MLS said, "Oh, sorry, Sacramento, we're going down there," because they didn't want to lose that market. Indianapolis is another one where they're talking about building a 20,000 person stadium, and almost specifically for an MLS bid from the Indiana team. I'm blanking on the name.
11.
Yeah, Indy 11. So, MLS sees USL as a competitor, and they are hostile takeovering what they can. And the places that can't sustain, they're letting them collapse, And so I think USL will probably, at best, like they're just going to serve the smaller markets, and it's going to operate like a AA or a AAA. And, the stadiums are going to be 3,000-4,000 people, and they're going to have a rock band play at halftime, and they're going to have popcorn fights like at half times, and they'll do like Vegas Lights, where they'll put inflatable kiddie pools right next to the throwing line for people to sit in.
It's like the movie Basketball.
Probably
never seen it.
Yeah,
never seen
really?
it.
It's a great
Yeah,
one.
Never seen Basketball. I understand that the diehards for the Pro Rel will watch it, but I don't think that works in this country. Just because the sport isn't as popular as you would need it to be for it to work. I feel like every major city has 4 or 5 sports teams. So if their team is playing in the second, third division, maybe, I think that they lose interest, they lose money. My understanding is that if you're in the EPL, and I got this off of goal.com, they had an article. If you're playing in the EPL and you get dropped down to the championship, you lose 60% of your revenue. That's not happening here. The owners aren't going. You're not losing 60% of your revenue, so it's just not going to happen. I don't think that. I don't think that that's happening in this country. And if it does with the USL, I'm sure that the diehards will follow it. And like Tommy said, that's good, and I'm glad that they'll have something to follow. But I don't think the MLS is, one, going that route, and two, that USL will ever overtake the MLS.
No, we do a salary cap instead. Like, if you look at where these are. These teams started from like sports clubs, which were like social clubs of functions, like, and they would put together their team to play other clubs, and the whole system formed to like weight the opponent, so it wasn't total mismatches. The only thing that could honestly do Pro Rel would be college NCAA sports, because these are institutions in the same way that these sports clubs were institutions in their home countries. You go to Brazil, like Sao Paulo Tricolor, that started from a sports club. They had swimming teams, they had basketball teams, they have volleyball teams, they have soccer teams. All of these, it's that's they're athletic clubs. So you need a governing body to regulate competition between these independent entities. Here it's a franchise. Like they do all that centrally and that's it. You know, I think people want intriguing matchups. They want the drama that comes of that. And at the end, if it's this I don't think anybody really, they just want to see a good game with two good teams play each other. And if it's a salary cap team, it's not a mismatch, and that's that.
And in this country, the big names sell, right? And the MLS, although it's not extremely popular, I would say, you've come to recognize what the MLS teams are, and they're recognized as the Division One. So I think that based off of that, unfortunately, USL will have a hard time taking them down. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because it's been going around a lot, and I just don't see it being a serious challenge to the MLS in any way.
I just looked up San Diego's expansion fee was $500 million. Yeah. You think they're just going to all of a sudden say, hey, if my team sucks, I might get moved down. I'm going to lose revenue. You threw $500 million down, and you're going to all of a sudden let these teams that haven't thrown any money in just magically move up to MLS without having to pay these fees?
But that's why MLS will never do Pro Rel, but USL can. I just don't think they'll succeed in taking down the MLS.
Right, but you see these Pro Rel people saying eventually we're going to merge with MLS.
Oh no!
And there's absolutely no way. That's what it's saying is they throw too much money in at the beginning to just say, yeah, screw it. I could be sent down to the USL.
Yeah, look, the fact that in England they lose 60% of their revenue, they can do that because over there the fans are so hardcore that, I mean, it's a neighborhood club for a lot of these teams, and they're gonna support them because that is the sport. It's
a multi-generational institution.
Right. Here, this soccer is just getting popular now. Like it's not happening, and it's everybody's. I already thought it was the fourth. I already thought that it took over hockey. A lot of people tell me that they don't think that it has. So imagine if they're the fifth most popular sport, you cannot all of a sudden add Pro Rel and think that that's going to succeed.
I'm not against it. I don't. It doesn't matter to me either way. I don't. You know, that's like. I don't think it'll make the game more popular or less popular. I think it's largely irrelevant for the popularity of the game here.
Yeah.
Those 8 people on Twitter, they'll be real pumped. Real pumped.
Yeah, I think it's more than 8. I think it's like 18.
Yeah. Or it's
the same.
Or they all have 3 accounts.
But they go hard, man. Like I had a discussion one time, and I was like, man, this guy's like really upset. Like, I'm just telling you, I don't think it'll work here. I just don't. But
yeah.
All right. Tommy, Eric, I appreciate you guys as always for joining me and talking a little MLS. Eric, let everybody know where they can find you and hear more about LAFC.
Yes, it's the Section 128 LAFC podcast. You can find it most places you can find podcasts, although Twitter and YouTube is probably the easiest. And I'm also a contributor to pitchsideus.com, which is more of a journalist website. We have a lot of actual journalists there as well, and that tends to cover a lot of MLS Brasileiro crossover.
I see a lot of people saying that hockey's dead, hockey's alive. I think hockey has randomly taken a spike in popularity over the last 2-3 years, maybe. But I think that the MLS is going to surpass both baseball and hockey in the next 10 years. I think it'll be the third most popular sport in the country.
The ESPN contract helped. I think the ESPN contract helped NHL, and the Apple hurt MLS a little bit.
It only if you don't count Canadian fans. The second you count Canadian hockey fans with American hockey fans, it's that's a
for sure. For sure. The Panthers just randomly started getting popular down here, but before that, nobody would go to those stadiums.
That's because they're winning. That's the reason why.
Oh yeah, it'll stop once they start losing again.
Go Kings, go!
Oh, you know I'm a Ducks fan. Shut up.
Tommy, 2-time. Let everybody know where they can find you.
ScarvesandSpikes.com. Join us on YouTube. We're on Mondays, Wednesdays, Sundays, any day, pretty much. Come hang out with us. Trash talk me. Everybody gives me a complex, it seems, every episode. So give me a complex. I'm ready for it.
Real quick, Dennis, please be clear. No, what won't? I'm not sure what you're talking about. And Eric, do you like the Waffle House?
Ooh.
I love Waffle House. Yeah. When my wife and I took a road trip, we specifically stopped at a Waffle House because I'm like, you have to go to this place. I've never really lived in a place that has lots of. I've only eaten there a few times, but I've always enjoyed the experience.
I hate the Waffle House, man. It's always such an all-out war to get a table, and it's just so horrible. I can't stand the Waffle House.
3:30 a.m. in Columbus, Georgia, with my cousins after they're drunk from the bars. Man, everybody needs to experience that once in their life.
Oh, but it's half empty.
Oh, it was not half empty when I was
No?
there. Oh, it was
No, man.
like after bar closed, it was crazy.
Yeah,
Look,
that's when it gets crazy. Like after midnight,
the food.
we're actually doing a podcast this year where all three of us are going to be at a different Waffle House. That's our plan this year.
All right.
Look, I think the food is as basic as it comes, and I think it's horrible.
It's better than Denny's.
Well,
you have Denny's, right?
If
No,
you're expecting a
hey,
Michelin
what?
star, if you're expecting a
Denny's
Michelin star at Waffle House, like, come on.
No, it's horrible. Denny's is way better than Waffle House.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm with Tommy on this.
Denny's
yeah.
eggs are
No.
neon green. Like if you put it under, you don't want to put it under a black light. You don't know what's in those eggs after that.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to put anything from the Waffle House under a black light. That place is disgusting.
You know what? Waffle House and Perkins, like that might be a little tougher for me, but you know.
No, I don't
You
know.
guys, do you guys even know Perkins?
I've never
We
even
have
heard of
Perkins here in Ohio.
All right.
Oh,
Oh
never
yeah.
heard of
Yeah.
Perkins.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll stick with my Denny's over Waffle House any day. But
The Mitch
All right.
comment's great there.
if you're watching, I'm sorry, if you're listening on audio, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave those 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And as always, please in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the last hour and 11 minutes. I told Tommy we would be under an hour, and again, I failed. But I tried. All right.
We
but,
always go
again,
over an hour when I'm on the show.
I appreciate you guys. I always have fun with you guys. And Dennis is more of an IHOP guy.
Oh, IHOP's gross.
Yeah. I can't co-sign IHOP. But
No,
Denny's,
I'm not hating on IHOP. Those are, I mean, for LA, like that's.
what about First Watch?
I don't know.
We just got one of those like 5 minutes from my house. It's
First
okay.
Watch
It's
is-
expensive.
It is
I
a little
mean,
expensive, but it's really good.
The LA experience, you try to maybe do Mel's or something like that, but
And 7-Eleven over Waffle. Who the hell eats at 7-Eleven?
no, come on.
Yeah,
7-Eleven?
I don't know what that's about. But again, appreciate everybody. Meet you guys at Denny's, and we'll be back on Tuesday to recap the week match 2 week. So until the next one, have a good one.